Welcome back to the Manor. Julian McBain here, and we are back with Personal Finance for Gamers. So today we will be talking about goals. And you're probably thinking, Julian, why do I need to think about goals when I need to think about my budget? Well, there's a very important reason you need to think about goals. And actually, your goals are even more important than the raw numbers. And that's not an easy thing to really understand in a lot of cases, because most people are like, well, as long as 2 plus 2 equals 4, and as long as 4 minus 3 equals 1, and as long as the bottom line is positive, I'm good. And from a mechanical perspective, you're right. However, that doesn't do you any good if you have no purpose in setting the budget. And this is something that's really hard to contend with, especially early on, because your biggest goal, in most cases, when you're trying to get your finances put back together, is to have the bottom line be positive. And that's a really hard threshold to overcome, because all you're thinking about is, I need to make sure I'm not going into debt. I need to make sure I'm not going more into debt. I need to make sure I am not starving. I'm not out on the streets. I have a roof over my head. All of those things make sense. Because when you are hungry or when you are homeless, your only thought is, I need a roof and I need food. But there's more to life than a roof and food. And perhaps for that time period, if you're that far behind on your finance, if you are in a position where just trying to make the basic necessities is a problem, then yes, that should be the goal. However, once you have those basic necessities, you need more than that in order to continue building yourself up. Because if you don't, you're going to live paycheck to paycheck your whole life. Because you'll have no reason to do any better. You have to have a reason. You have to have an underlying reason that you want to do things. So, what we're going to talk about today is goal setting. And we're just going to do some basic goal setting. There are other videos on my channel about goals and about strategies for coming up with goal setting methodologies, from the 9-goal method to the theme method. We're not going to get into the mechanics of that today. That is not the goal of this video. The goal of this video is some basic framework on goals. You can go find the videos on goals if you want to after. There's a lot on goal setting in the McBain Moments playlist, even though there's snippets. There's a lot of good tidbits in there about goal setting. What we're going to talk about today is goal setting and how it relates to your finances, specifically. So, purpose number one, this is before you begin. This is before you begin with your budget. This is before you look at your income. This is before you look at your bottom line. This is before you look at your debts. What do you want? What do you want out of life? What direction are you going in? Because if you don't know that, you're not going to know how to plan it into your finances. Every goal you have will have a cost. It's going to have a time cost. It's going to have a money cost. And frankly, time is money. And the money you make for your time is not what you're worth. And why is it not what you're worth? Because, and what I mean by that is, it's not what it's worth to you. It may be what it's worth to the employer. It may be what it's worth to your customer, because perhaps you do not have the marketable skills to make it worth what it's worth to you. And the older you get, in a lot of ways, the more expensive your time gets, because you have less of it to spend. But really, the younger you are, the more valuable it is, because it is more time to build up more and more dividends. So there's a balancing act there. So, okay, I mean, just as an example, in this video, we are swunting. And for the majority of Entropians, you're like, why are we swunting? This is the slowest way to make money in Entropia Universe. Well, yes, but no. There are a number of goals in Entropia Universe that swunting achieves. Builds up evade, builds up sweat to sell, can then use the money from that, which doesn't cost anything to accumulate, to buy shares. See? Specific goal for the grind. And you're never going to get rid of the grind. This is number one, first thing you need to think of in finance. You will never get rid of the grind. The grind is part of life. So just get rid of that notion that eventually you'll be in a place where you can just financially sit on your ass with your feet up at a beach. I mean, yeah, you can do that, and within a month you'll take a hammer to your whole life because you're going to be bored. And that's universally true. There isn't a single person on this planet that can go more than a couple of months with nothing to do, as we saw during lockdowns. People started acting a fool within 3 months. So, have goals. And so, what kind of goals should you look at? First off, I'm going to mea culpa. This should have been number 1 on the original Personal Finance for Gamers playlist, which has been renamed. You can go check out the older videos. This playlist will be a lot more in-depth, and there will be even more content on the Patreon. So just be aware that this is not all of the content. This is going to be the bulk of the content. There will be exclusive content on Patreon for my patrons regarding this topic. Okay. The whole purpose of having a financial plan, which is what we're learning how to build here, the whole purpose is to achieve your goals. And that goal has to be beyond having the bottom line be positive. That might be goal number 1, but that can't be the only goal. If that's your only goal, you're setting yourself up for failure. So, what you're going to do, and you're going to do this after this video, is you're actually going to do 2 things. You're going to first, after this video is over, you're going to hit pause before it can cycle or go to refresh. You're going to go down into you're going to go into your bathroom, you're going to look yourself in the mirror, and you're going to look yourself in the eye, and you're going to say, what do I want? And have a notebook with you, or if you have a mirror in your bedroom, you can use that too. And the first thing you can think of, you're going to write down. First thing. Doesn't matter if it's personal, doesn't matter if it's professional, doesn't matter if it's financial, doesn't matter if it's frivolous. I want a burger. I need lunch. What do I want? And be honest with yourself. It could be $1 million. Don't care. You have to be honest with yourself. There's a Garrett White has a book, and it's primarily aimed at men, about dealing with goal settings and with putting together your life after you've let it fall apart. And the term he uses is be real and be raw. Do not edit what you're doing. Do not assume what you want is wrong. Be real, be raw. What do you want? Once you've been raw, now focus on what it is you really want and need. Because now that you've just spewed out all over the paper, now you can write down the important stuff. Goals are split into 2 timelines for this purpose. And we're going to try to get a worksheet up on on the Patreon, which will be free for everyone. And it's going to be very basic, but it's like short-term goal, short-term goal, short-term goal, with lines for brainstorming. Long-term, long-term, long-term. Those are the 2 timelines. Short-term, long-term. Short-term means less than a year. Long-term means 1 to 5 years in this context. Now, we've had discussions about meta goals and long-term and pushing the limits. For this breaks those rules because it's very keyed into the numbers of your finances. We're not talking about the more esoteric parts of goal setting where it's like, well, my life achievement goals are X, Y, and Z. No, this is how does the money play out? When you're dealing with numbers, you need to have hard numbers, and what gets measured gets achieved. So, what you're going to do is you're going to start with short-term goals. What do you need in the next month? What do you need in the next 6 months? What's the next quarter look like? What does the next year look like? What do you need to achieve? And you should have 3, at least. 3 is a good number to coalesce around, and it should be 1 in each of these categories. Personal, professional, financial. Personal, professional, financial. Personal goal. I want to lose 10 pounds. Cool. Well, why does that matter to my finances, Julian? You need to have a gym membership. That's why, and that's an expense. Or you might need to buy some weights. Or you might need to buy yourself a Bowflex. I am not sponsored by Bowflex, but that would be cool. There's always a financial cost to any goal. So, okay, your personal goal is you want to lose 10 pounds. Cool. Or maybe you want to learn how to cook. That's cool too. That's more of a long-term goal, but short-term you can make yourself healthy meals. So you have to factor in the cost of cooking classes or a master class from the master class site to get Gordon Ramsay's master class in food making. They all have a financial cost, which is why the personal goals and the professional goals have to be in your financial plan. Okay, well, what's your professional goal? I want to get promoted. Okay, what does promoted mean? Well, you need more skills. What do you need to do? Well, maybe you need to go back to school. That's going to have a cost associated. Maybe you need to take your training class. Okay, there. Maybe you need to get a license. Okay, there. Certifications. All of these have money associated with them. Maybe you just need to spend some time, and time is money, to look up free classes on OpenCourseWare and learn Six Sigma. It doesn't matter. All of these things have a cost. Whether it's time or cash, all of them have a cost, which is why it's so important they're part of your financial plan. Financial goal. Pay off a credit card. Awesome. Pay off a mortgage. Assuming you're in range of doing so. Have $1,000 in savings. And realistically, that should be a goal for everyone, to have at least $1,000 in savings. It does not matter, and we'll be talking about this when we get to pay yourself first in savings and stuff like that. If you don't have $1,000 in your savings, you're setting yourself up to fail. And we're going to get into that later, but if you do not have that, that is your first financial goal. I'm setting that for you right now. If you do not have $1,000 in savings, it doesn't have to necessarily be cash. It can be in stocks. It can be in crypto. It can be in gold. It doesn't matter. It has to be easy to liquidate within 3 to 5 days. It has to be reasonably accessible. But if you don't have $1,000 liquid, despite everything else you have, you are setting yourself up for failure. Because all you're going to do is you're going to run into a problem. You're going to have no liquid cash, and you're going to end up in debt more. How do I know this? I learned the hard way. The very hard way. And I went from having no credit card debt to being $3,000 in credit card debt in a week because of emergencies. Lost a starter, had to travel halfway across the country. Had to go to family court, $800. These things happen. So if you don't have $1,000 liquid stashed somewhere, that's your first financial goal. I just said it for you. After that, maybe it's growing it to 2. Maybe it's paying off a debt. Maybe it's coming up with a strategy to break down all of the cash flows. Maybe it's building your financial plan. Doesn't matter. Those are your goals. Next group, long term. Long term's 1 to 5 years. Okay. Personal goal. Go to the gym 3 times a week for 5 years. Well, that's not really good because that's more scheduling. Consistency is important, and having that be there, but it should have more of a numeric, because 3 times a week, that's not a good measure. Losing 50 pounds, that's a good measure. Okay? Cooking 3 times a week, that's a better measure because it's easy to measure and easy to achieve. Going to the gym 3 times a week, it's kind of in there too, but you have better metrics for that. Cutting calories. Easy. And I know I sound like I'm focused on fitness, which I'm not, but it's an easy one to allegory to because that's a lot of people's, especially coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people are focused on getting back down to their pre-pandemic weight, which is why that's being presented here. Perhaps it's being able to get more headshots with your rapier if you're a fencer like I am. Maybe it's getting this much closer to the bullseye in shooting sports. It doesn't matter what your personal goal is. Set a 1 to 5 year personal goal. Professional goal. Getting a $20,000 raise. Which sounds financial, and it kind of is, but it's really professional. Getting that next promotion. Getting that next certification. Getting your degree. All these are professional goals. It doesn't matter what your goal is as long as it's important to you. And that's the most important part. It's got to be important to you. Because if it's not important to you and it's not measurable, you're not going to even bother. You'll do it for a week and you'll be like, I'm bored and wander off. You will. Everyone does. Financial goal. Have $5,000 saved liquid. Kill off $10,000 in credit card debt. Eliminate a student loan. Have a down payment for a house. Buy a piece of real estate. Buy my first door. What's a door? It's a rental property. It's often called a rental property. Technically, your first door is usually your own home, but beyond that, it's rental properties. When we get into the investments and business section of this series, you will learn more about, or I will talk more about that. These are your goals. And then, because it's me, have a meta goal. Just have it notated at the bottom. And this can be your outlandish one, $10 million in the bank. A meta goal that's measurable. And that's kind of your pie in the sky. I told you we wouldn't be addressing pie in the sky. I lied. Kind of. We're not going to focus on pie in the sky. But what that does is it keeps you keyed in that your goals up top are not your only goals. They're just the ones you're focused on today. With all these goals put together, now you have a benchmark, a starting place. All of your goals on this sheet, except the meta, if you decide to use it, you might have your meta set somewhere else, and that actually might be more beneficial to you, must be measurable. You must have some way to form metrics on it. You have to be able to track what they cost you, to track what your progress is, and how good you're doing at it. Because what is measured gets achieved. Dan Pena said that. $1 Trillion Man. You should go check out his channel. Good stuff. What gets measured gets achieved. You gotta have measurements. You have to be able to measure your goals out. Especially when it comes to goals that are related to your money. Money doesn't lie. Money never lies. It can't lie. It's just numbers. It's just mathematics. 2 + 2 = 4. Doesn't matter how many times you add 2 + 2, it will always equal 4. Money's the same way. 2 + 2 will always equal 4. Period. So, a couple of things you need to keep in mind. I'm going to reiterate. We're going to sum it up. Measurable goals, short-term and long-term. Don't lie to yourself over what you want. Don't say, well, that's stupid. I shouldn't want. No. I don't care what you want. What you want is what you want. Write the damn thing down. Measurable. Has to be something you actually want. If you have a spouse or a significant other, especially if you're living together, discuss your goals with them and come up with a plan together. You each can have goals, and they can be different goals. But when you go to plan the next steps in your finances, you have to be able to align them enough so that you're not actually hurting each other, because that's going to just lead you to a mess. It'll either be an argument, or in the worst case, it'll be a separation or divorce, and you don't want that. That's not the goal of this. The goal of this is to bring things together, not to screw things up. And the last thing is don't set too many goals. And this is a harder lesson to learn, especially for someone like me. Don't set too many goals. Because what does that lead to? Excuses. It leads to excuses. And as soon as you start making excuses, you stop going after your goals. And you stop paying attention to your money when you don't have goals. And then your finances go to shit again. You don't want to wind up there. So, before you begin, think about what you want. It's like the shadows from Babylon 5 asked, what do you want? The Vorlons asked, who are you? The shadows ask, what do you want? In this case, we need to know what you want. The more esoteric, who are you? The only person who can answer that is you. But your finances are part of who you are. Because money doesn't change people. Money allows you to be yourself more. So, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. And as always, I really appreciate the support, and we will see you in the next one.